never said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
71 million Trump supporters and not a single city burned to the ground over the most corrupt election in American history. Not a single riot, not even so much as a protest for the BS that the Democratic Party has put this country through over the last 4 years. What does that tell you? It tells you that the Republican people are the party of understanding, the party of patience, the party of logic, while Democrats have done nothing but riot, steal, and loot, and literally destroy America within. Every time they didn't get their way, we allow them to use us as a punching bag, and we took it. Hit after hit after hit. They have repeatedly and relentlessly reminded us how much they hate us, how much they resent us. But now they want unity. They want peace. They want us to all come together and sing Kumbaya because they finally got their way. What a bunch of whiny little crybabies you all are. This is why you've been labeled as Demobrats, because that's what you guys are. You are the brats of the government. And if you think that we're just going to sit here and take it and let your boy call the shots for the next 4 years after you've spent every minute of Trump's presidency fighting to undermine his policies, his accomplishments, fighting to have him removed from office because he was mean, well, you have a very real and rude awakening coming. Because once we take the Senate, Joe Biden won't even be able to take a piss without Mitch McConnell saying so. And that's the reality of the next 4 years. Let's head over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what the American people have to say about Mitch McConnell's first move on the Senate floor yesterday. So in his first remarks on the Senate floor since the election, the majority leader, Mitch McConnell, backed the Trump campaign's legal fight and said legal ballots must be counted. And I love that his first act on the Senate floor has come out to back his party, to support what this country is mostly frustrated with. It's just great to see that the Senate Majority Leader is going to stick by and make sure that democracy prevails. And that's what America needs right now. That's what the Republican Party needs right now. We need somebody to go to bat for us, and we need somebody to back what we know is fair, what we know is right. So Mitch McConnell backs Trump's legal fight, and he says that the president has every right to look into the allegations. Let's take a look at what the keyboard warriors have to say, because after all, it's more important what we, the people, think about the situation, what we, the people, feel and know is right. After all, our voice is what should be the final say. We are still behind our president, says Carla, praying that God will make the wrongs that were done in this election right. Keep praying and fighting. Amen, Carla. That's exactly what we need to do. Ben Hosher says, if Dems had an ounce of honest integrity with their every vote must be counted, then by God, they should live up to assuring that every vote is validated by impartial participation. Remember, also, Dem said be patient. It doesn't matter how long it takes to harvest ballots. So he's absolutely right. If you guys remember back to when Trump was clearly leading the way and it was looking like for a moment that he was going to keep the White House. If you remember the Biden campaign screaming, be patient, every vote must be counted. It was only a few days that they were screaming from the rooftops that we need to be patient. Well, it's now time that the Democratic Party needs to be patient because we have a real issue here to get through. But of course, the media and the Dems want to rush us through this as quickly as possible. How is that fair? How is it fair then that when we were told to sit the sidelines and let democracy prevail, that now we're just supposed to be steamrolled through this election and be told, hey, stop being sore losers? Well, listen, this has nothing to do with being a sore loser. This has to do with America's democracy prevailing, and it doesn't matter what side of the fence you sit on, Republican or Democratic. We need to make sure that a fair election is being fought. Let's head over to Fox News and listen to what Sean Hannity had to say with Senator Ted Cruz last night.
Here with reaction, author of One Vote Away, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, you have been, your constitutional analysis has been amazing. I want you to just take your time and lay out what is at issue here.
Well, look, the fundamental question is, are we going to follow the law? You notice the news media on Election Day, when you and I probably went to bed on Election Day seeing the same results. We saw that President Trump had won Florida, we'd won Ohio, we were leading in North Carolina, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin. It looked like a very good night. And all the news media was saying at the time, well, hold on, we don't know who won. And then as the numbers shifted to Joe Biden, suddenly the instant they shifted to Joe Biden, the entire news media said, okay, now it's over, everyone shut up and go home. Well, that's not actually the way the system works. The way the system works is you follow the law. There are multiple lawsuits pending in multiple states. Those lawsuits have to be resolved, and there are serious allegations of violations of law. The right standard is that every single legal vote that was cast should be counted, but any votes that were illegally cast shouldn't be counted, and there's a way we resolve those. You know, one of the frustrating things as a citizen, you see all these tweets going back and forth. You see allegations of this happened, that happened. It's hard to know. It's hard for anyone to know, all right, is this true? What's true? The only way to know is we have a legal process. We have state courts, we have federal courts that can hear legal claims. And right now, it is incumbent on the Trump campaign's lawyers to go in and prove their case in court, to lay out evidence of illegally cast votes, to lay out evidence of what was done right, what was done wrong. And when the process is over, we're going to know the result. But we need to let the process play out, and much of the mainstream media doesn't want to let us do that.
So it's not even about trying to uncover conspiracy theories at this point. It's just trying to make sure that valid and legal counts were in fact the only ballots submitted and counted. Put aside fraud for a second. We've heard case after case about dead people receiving ballots, and people have just straight up admitted that these ballots have arrived for their deceased or for the loved ones who have been deceased for a while. And although they're not going to admit that they sent these in because that would be committing an act of federal fraud and they do some serious jail time, no one's going to admit that they actually sent them in. But we know, okay, let's use our head here. Let's use common sense. This country has been so divided. There's been so much hate towards each party that you better believe that these ballots of the deceased were sent in, because all you had to do is tick a few boxes and send them in. That's it. No identification verification process. It was just a simple matter of ticking a few boxes and sending them in. So even if you take conspiracy theories off the table, even if you take fraud off the table and glitch errors, we have to make sure that the only ballots that were counted were legal, that they were valid. We cannot be counting deceased people. We cannot be counting illegal ballots. And we're not just talking a few here. We're talking hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands. That's going to cause a major shift towards one party or the other. So I do feel like as a country, as a democracy, that we need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, hey, listen, whoever won this election, fine, but it needs to be fair. This is America. This isn't a communist, corrupt dictatorship. This is America. And if we don't feel that our vote matters, if we don't feel that when we go to the polls and we submit our ballot, or that when we send in our ballot, whether it be from overseas or down the road, if we don't feel that our vote is actually going to be counted towards the candidate that we voted for, then what's the point of this whole thing? Americans are going to lose faith no matter who wins this race if due process doesn't or isn't allowed to run its course. Let's take a look at what a few more people had to say here in the comments. Cam, we all know the Democratic Party would have done the same. However, that party has double standards and are huge hypocrites. Listen, no matter who this was done to, if it was done to the Democratic Party, they would have just as much of a right to be able to take a minute to make sure that the ballots were in fact valid. Every right. Let's see. Bobby has to say, I look at McConnell as the gatekeeper, holding back the evil left and their ruinous ideas for our beloved country. Yes, that's absolutely true. Mitch McConnell is the gatekeeper right now, and we can only pray that Georgia pulls through. If Georgia doesn't pull through, we have a problem. I spoke about it on yesterday's show. The country doesn't need a far left radical, all-encompassing agenda right now. We do need Georgia to take their Republican seat. We do need Mitch McConnell to stay as the majority leader, and we do need him to be the gatekeeper. It's not to say that Mitch is going to shut down every single decision that Biden-Harris tried to put through. It's not to say that he's going to sit there with his arms crossed and not allow the left to have a say in what goes on. But the hatred and the anger from the left towards the Republican Party isn't helping right now. The constant battle and attacking that they've put us through over the last few years certainly doesn't put a good taste in anybody's mouth. So can you blame Mitch McConnell for coming out the way he has? Can you blame him for his very first conversation on the floor yesterday to be, we are backing Trump's campaign. We are going to get to the bottom of this, and he has every right to. So it's no surprise that he's taken the stance he is. So buckle up, guys. This is going to be a very long battle and a rightful one. Everyone does realize the Republican senators and House reps were voted in on the same ballots that elected the incoming president, right? It was the same piece of paper. The level of hypocrisy is unreal. Now, that's a very fair comment, and I actually do have to agree with Camilla here on this one. Yes, every ballot that was sent in voted for their presidential candidate as well as who they would like to take in their state's Senate seat in their state, as well as other district candidates. So if the ballots are going to be counted towards the Senate and the House seats, then yes, it should make sense that they're counted towards the presidential seats as well. Why are we having such an issue with us calling corruption on the presidential candidate, but we're so eager to lock in the deal on the Senate and the House of Reps? Well, it's because we don't believe that every single ballot was actually cast in combination with both the president and the Senate. For those illegal ballots, for those ballots that may have been submitted by the deceased, it's very practical and realistic to think that thousands of people may have just ticked presidents and that's it, left the rest of the ballot a blank. Okay, it's not unrealistic to think that that would have been the case. Anybody who sent in a real ballot, yes, there would have been a strong chance that they would have filled it out across the board and that both the Senate, the House, and the presidential candidate would have been on that ballot all at the same time. However, the ballots that we're questioning, the ballots that we want to scrutinize, are the ones that were probably filled out by the deceased, by the illegals, and a presidential box would have been ticked, and that's it. You don't have to vote for a state seat. You don't have to vote for who you'd like the House of Representatives to be. You don't have. You can just tick whatever box you want. It's very unlikely that a bunch of people ticked state seats without the presidential option. But I don't think the other way around would have been so true. Hence the reason that I feel like the presidential seats are the ones that are supposed to be the most scrutinized and probably are the ones that we need to question the most right now. Ross says, gosh, he really is a politician, isn't he? He says he agrees with Trump, but says the opposite by adding legal like Ivanka did. Trump wanted to stop counting the ballots. Since postal ballots are legal, both these guys sound like they are supporting Trump, but very carefully changing the message. I am guessing most people didn't notice the subtle difference here. Gotta love the uneducated. Actually, Ra, you're wrong. Trump did say stop counting because he didn't want the media to steamroll us through this election exactly like they have been. He said stop counting because he knew that illegal vote after illegal vote after legal vote was going to keep coming in Biden's favor. He wanted to put a brakes on the election, and he wanted to do it before the media had a chance to illegally project that Biden was the winner. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after this commercial.
Welcome back to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard, and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. If you weren't with us for the beginning of the show, we spoke a lot about how Senator Mitch McConnell, his first move is going to be to make sure that he backs Trump, to make sure that democracy is prevailed, and to make sure that every single vote is counted ethically, morally, and that whoever wins this race wins fairly. Pulled up a video here. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer make remarks on the Senate floor. Let's have a listen to what Mitch McConnell actually said yesterday during his Senate floor conversation.
Exercise the right which generations risk everything to hand on to us. I want to spend a few minutes this morning talking about what we saw last week, where we are now, and where our great country will go from here. There's one aspect of last week that has gotten lost that I want to single out right at the start. By every indication, the 2020 election appears to have been free from meaningful foreign interference. There is no suggestion that our foreign adversaries were allowed to undermine the integrity of our process. According to the director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Administration, quote, we have no evidence any foreign adversary was capable of preventing Americans from voting or changing vote tallies, end quote. General Paul Nakasone, the head of the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command, reported Tuesday night, quote, "The actions we've taken against adversaries have ensured they're not going to interfere in our elections," end quote. The Trump administration and the Senate spent 4 years supporting the state and local election authorities on the front lines. New tools and information sharing partnerships, unprecedented coordination, hundreds of millions in new funding, new painful consequences for bad actors like Russia if they interfere. The absence of any reports of foreign interference is a ringing endorsement of our bipartisan work. And it slams the door on the embarrassing, irresponsible rhetoric that some Washington Democrats spent 4 years broadcasting. Too many voices tried to talk down our progress, urged Americans actually not to have confidence, and smeared anyone as unpatriotic who opposed far-left proposals to rewrite election laws. Well, Mr. President, the people who push this hysteria could not have more egg on their face than they do right now. None of their demands became law. None of them. The Speaker of the House did not get to personally rewrite election law. And yet, because of the sensible bipartisan steps that some of us championed, our defenses and countermeasures proved to be in radically better shape than back in 2016. So it's time, let's talk about where we are now. According to preliminary results, voters across the nation elected and re-elected Republican senators to a degree that actually stunned prognosticators. Likewise, the American people seem to have reacted to House Democrats' radicalism and obstruction by shrinking the Speaker's majority and electing more Republicans. And then there's the presidential race. Obviously, no states have yet certified their election results. We have at least 1 or 2 states that are already on track for a recount. And I believe the president may have legal challenges underway in at least 5 states. The core principle here is not complicated. In the United States of America, all legal ballots must be counted. Any illegal ballots must not be counted. The process should be transparent or observable by all sides, and the courts are here to work through concerns. Our institutions are actually built for this. We have the system in place to consider concerns, and President Trump is 100% within his rights to look into allegations of irregularities and weigh his legal options.
So I think it's very important to know here as we take a look at what Senator Mitch McConnell just spoke about. He's very clearly stating, which is a very sad reality for America, that they do not believe that foreign that foreign affairs had anything to do with the corruption of the election. He doesn't believe that outsider influence was had. He's saying that everything that we face today is domestically, right here within the United States. And that is a very sad reality for this country, that we are having we're going through the most corrupt election in American history, all because of the internal issues and hatred for each other, and that Trump is well within his legal right to go after these 5 states. Susan says the U.S. ambassador to Denmark tweeted out, okay, so this is the U.S. ambassador to Denmark, tweeted out that she got a ballot from LA for her dead husband to vote. It's happening all the time. She voted in Pennsylvania, and her vote still hasn't been counted late night November 7th. Okay, so again, we already tackled this earlier in the show, and it's been tweeted. It's now being tweeted by U.S. ambassadors that yes, they're getting votes from for their deceased loved ones, and if it's happening to somebody like the U.S. ambassador, you better believe it's happening to millions of Americans all over the country. What's to stop these ballots from being submitted? How many past elections has this happened? It's a real problem. It's a problem that we have to nip in the bud now. We have to get to the bottom of this. Not just for this election. Not just because personally I'd like to see Trump stay in office for the next 4 years. Not because of that. Because we, as an American people, need to know that we feel safe. That we feel that our votes count. Praying for the true winner, not winner decided by the media and corrupt Democrats. Shame on you, Fox News. We'll miss Greg Gutfeld. Listen, I don't think it's fair to attack most of the Democratic Party. Okay, listen, I've got friends, I've got family. We all have friends and family that are Democrats, and they're great people. I feel that they're just a bit misguided right now. I feel that they're lost. I feel that they don't know where to turn, because at the end of the day, they didn't really vote for Joe Biden. They voted against Donald Trump. And if you ask a Democrat exactly why did you vote for Joe Biden, they're not going to really have a clear answer, except for, well, I don't know, but I voted against Trump. That is not really a reason to vote for a presidential candidate. It's not a reason to vote for the leader of the free world, to make such an important decision because you didn't want to vote for the other guy. I mean, that's to me, that's not really an educated vote. That's voting emotionally, not logically. So I can understand the attack on the entire Democratic Party for the way that they think, although it's not fair to be punishing every single Democrat for it. But he is right. Ampy is right that no winner should be decided by the media, and that's exactly what's happened here. You have to be a fool no matter who you voted for to not realize something about this whole election was totally funky. All American people should want the truth. Yes. Kynan, you are absolutely right. We just want the truth. Something very dodgy is going on here. Something very illegal, very unethical, and we just want the truth. And yes, I agree. You do have to be a fool to think that there's nothing suspicious going on here. We didn't need foreign interference. We had more than enough domestic interference to set the Constitution ablaze. And that's exactly what I just touched on. And that's exactly what Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell just touched on. There was no foreign interference here. There was domestic interference. There was corruption from within. This is a domestic terror attack on America. This is worse than a terror attack because we don't know how long this has been going on. This would be like a civil war that went on for 100 years that never ended. And that's exactly what's going to happen if we don't get to the bottom of this right now. If Mr. Biden feels like he won, why is he scared of a recount? I think you would want to ease the other side's mind. That would be a way to show he really wants to unify. Fair point. I think that if Biden feels like he truly and ethically won, if he feels like the people have genuinely spoken, then why is he so scared? Why is he out there acting like he's president of the United States right this second? I mean, God, the guy's not even pretending like there's a transition going on. He's out there putting together a COVID task force, running or calling the shots on what's going to happen with the vaccine. Well, hold on a second. First of all, you're not president until January 20th. And secondly, we still have an issue that we're trying to work through. Why are you so scared? I'm going to end it on that note today. Let's hope that America does prevail, that democracy prevails, and that we do get to the bottom of this. One thing is for sure, if we keep the Senate, well, Democrats, don't be too eager to put in all those far radical left changes that you're so desperate to push through. Because if Mitch McConnell continues to call the shots, like I said in the beginning of the show, Joe Biden's not going to be able to take a piss without him doing so. That's all for today. You guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out YouMadeItPolitical.com.